Chapter 6. Harriet went to the castle by the side door. She was barely through the second set of rooms before she realized what Wilbur had meant about the decor. Everything matched. The first room was purple, the walls were painted purple, the drapes were purple, the door frames and tapestries and throw pillows were purple. The second room was green. The walls were green, the carpets were green, the end tables were inlaid with green marble, and the lamps had green blown glass shades. You got the impression that if there had been a way to make the sunlight coming through the windows green, the decorator would have done so. The third room was blue. The ceiling was blue, the walls were blue, and the decorator had solved the sunlight problem by installing a blue stained glass window that streamed blue light over the blue carpet on the blue floor. There was a guard. Harriet thought he was wearing blue, but even if he weren't, his clothes would have looked blue. His fur had a bit of a bluish cast, but that was probably the light. "Halt! Who goes there?" "Princess Harriet. I'm here about the curse." To his credit, the guard did not say, "But you're a girl," or "But you're awfully young," or any of the other regrettable things that people often said to Harriet. "You'll have to go to the gray room," said the guard. "It's down the hall to the left, third floor, down the stairs, turn right, up the spiral staircase." "Can't you show me?" asked Harriet. "No," said the guard. "I'm in blues." He said this as if it were an obvious statement. Harriet waited politely for a moment and then said, "Yes, and..." "You can't go into another color room. If someone in blues goes into the pink room, they'd clash. The king would be very upset." It occurred to Harriet that she was dealing with a very peculiar sort of mind. "I see," she said. "What do you do when you need to go to the bathroom?" The guard stared at his feet. "We make sure the rooms are cleared, then we make a run for it," he mumbled. "But don't tell the king." "Wouldn't dream of it," said Harriet, patting him on the arm. She was wearing blue herself, but no one tried to stop her. Apparently, the rule only applied to employees. After wandering over what felt like half the castle, Harriet found a pale pink room. It was just as overwhelming as all the other rooms, but there was a small mouse in a white dress in it arranging flowers. "Excuse me." The mouse squeaked and whirled around. A second mouse, who had been staring out the window, turned toward the door. "Sorry," said Harriet. "I'm looking for the gray room. I've been through 2 blue rooms, 1 green room, what I think was 2 separate orange hallways, although I might have wandered into the same one twice, and something that I think was the magenta room, except that it was so blinding that I had to close my eyes and feel my way to the door. Can you help me?" "You're supposed to curtsy," said the mouse by the window. She sounded snotty but also tired, as if being snotty was just a habit by now, and she didn't really care one way or the other. "We're princesses." "Well, that makes 3 of us," said Harriet, who was not above being a princess when it suited her. "Princess Harriet, at your service." The mouse at the window looked Harriet over, and then turned back to the window. "Our dad's kingdom is bigger." She leaned her head back on the windowsill and appeared to doze off suddenly. "Give it a rest, September." "Oh, never mind." To Harriet she said, "I'm sorry about my sister. I'm August. It's nice to meet you." "August," said Harriet. "You're the one with that riding quail, then." "Oh, yes." August put her hands together. "My dear little Hyacinth. I don't get to ride her as much as I want. We can't leave the castle grounds. Earthquakes, screaming, the towers fall into the moat, that sort of thing. You've heard of it, I see." "It's why I'm here." "Oh." This was not the reaction that Harriet would expect from someone who wanted their curse broken. She considered various subtle methods of extracting information, and then rejected them all in favor of asking, "Do you want your curse broken?" August stared at her feet. After a moment, she picked up the flowers and began sliding the stems one by one into the vase. The flowers were pink, of course, but their green stems made a welcome break from the pink covering the room. "Nobody can break the curse," said September, waking up. She blinked a few times and stifled a yawn. "Lots of people have tried. Some of them died." "I don't want anybody else to get hurt," said August angrily, cramming the rest of the flowers into the vase. "I wish I wasn't a princess." "Boy, have I been there," said Harriet. She patted August on the shoulder. The Mouse Princess looked surprised at the sympathy. "Come on," she said finally. "I'll take you to my father, the king." The Mouse King sat in the throne room, which was several hallways away from the Grey Room. You could not simply go to the throne room. Harriet discovered this when August went to the Grey Room to summon a butler who wore black, and the butler went through the hallway opening doors. "If you wear black, you can go to any of the rooms," August explained. "Black goes with everything and doesn't clash." "Your father certainly has some interesting ideas," said Harriet. She made a mental note to acquire a rainbow-colored hat at the earliest opportunity and wear it in every possible room to annoy him. The throne room was black and silver. It was twice as large as the one in Harriet's parents' castle, but it seemed nearly empty by comparison. "Your Majesty," said the butler, bowing, "may I present the Princess Harriet, slayer of the wicked fairy Ratshade, bane of ogres, and champion of the joust." "Did you really slay a wicked fairy?" whispered August. "Nah," whispered Harriet. "I just demagicked her. Last I heard, she had moved to another country and was selling condemned real estate." The Mouse King did not look impressed by any of these titles. He straightened up in his chair, but not by much. "What brings you here, Princess Harriet?" he asked. Harriet bowed. She wasn't going to curtsy, even for a king. "I'm here about the curse, Your Majesty," she said. There was a lengthy pause. A rat standing beside the throne leaned forward and whispered something to the Mouse King. The king whispered something back. The rat whispered something rather urgently. They both looked at Harriet and then back to each other. Harriet wondered if she should be offended. Finally, the Mouse King said, "You're a girl." "Oh, you're quick, Your Majesty," said Harriet. The rat cleared his throat, took a step forward, and said, "I believe what His Majesty intends to say is that the call for curse breaking was to heroes." Not heroines, you see. "Look, do you want the curse broken or not?" "You really think you can break the curse?" asked the king. "Many men have tried already." "Had they ever been cursed?" asked Harriet. "And were they slayers of wicked fairies and jousting champions? Because if not, I'm better." More whispering. "Very well," said the king. "I suppose we do not need to worry about the details unless you manage to succeed." From his tone, Harriet could tell that he didn't think this was likely. "The rules are simple. You may spend 3 nights in the hall where the princesses sleep. At the end of 3 days, you will either tell me how the princesses wear their shoes through, or you will leave the palace and my kingdom at once. Is that clear?" "Yep," said Harriet. "If you succeed, the reward is half the kingdom in the hand of one of the princesses in He stopped. He looked at Harriet, who was undeniably a 12-year-old girl. He opened his mouth and closed it again. Half the kingdom and a princess, said Harriet cheerfully. Got it. Do you have any questions? Asked the king. Just one, said Harriet. What would you have done if December had been twins? The king didn't so much as blink. I would have disowned the younger twin. It is a set of 12, not 13. Yeesh. Definitely a peculiar sort of mind. Harriet wasn't sure if she should break the curse or lead a revolution and put one of the princesses on the throne instead. Report to the Grey Room tonight, said the Mouse King. You will be taken to the princesses. Righto, said Harriet, and left the room without bothering to bow.